In 1348, nearly 30 years after the death of Margrave Waldemar of Brandenburg, a man suddenly emerged claiming to be Waldemar himself. At the time, he was also often referred to as Waldemar. He insisted that he had only faked his death to travel to the Holy Land as a penitent pilgrim. Now, he had returned to reclaim the Margraviate of Brandenburg. This supposed resurrection took place in a fragmented empire, torn by a power struggle between the Luxembourgs and the Wittelsbachs, a perfect stage for a political charade. King Charles IV of Bohemia, later crowned emperor, had established himself as a rival to Louis of Bavaria. He saw in this Waldemar a useful tool to undermine the Wittelsbachs. The Ascanian dukes of Saxony and the princes of Anhalt, allegedly relatives of the real Waldemar, also backed the returnee, hoping to claim Brandenburg for themselves. After covering the story of Tile Kolup in a previous video, the man who claimed to be the long-dead Emperor Frederick the Second and shocked the realm, I now bring you a similar, yet even lesser-known case. The story of the Impostor of Dessau. In late summer of 1348, Waldemar entered Brandenburg, accompanied by Otto of Magdeburg and Prince Albrecht II of Anhalt-Köthen. Many towns and nobles swiftly recognized him as their rightful ruler. Even the king declared him authentic, and on October 2nd, officially granted him the Margraviates of Brandenburg and Landsberg. The princes of Anhalt and the dukes of Saxony were designated as his heirs. Despite this recognition, conflict quickly flared. Margrave Louis of Brandenburg, son of Louis of Bavaria, returned from Bavaria to defend his rule. A power struggle erupted. On one side stood Waldemar and his allies. On the other, Louis, backed by parts of the Neumark region, the town of Frankfurt an der Oder, and numerous knights. Charles IV, a consummate political strategist, skillfully used the so-called Waldemar to strengthen his own position. In 1349, he briefly made peace with Louis of Brandenburg, only to again declare Waldemar the rightful Margrave in August. But opposition to the returnee intensified. Danish and Pomeranian troops entered Brandenburg to support Louis. Many knights switched allegiances once more, and even previously loyal counts turned their backs on Waldemar. This unrest led to a new attempt at resolution. In February of 1350, a formal judgment was arranged. A commission led by the Wittelsbach elector Rupert of the Palatinate concluded on February 14th that Waldemar was more false than genuine. As a result, Charles reinvested Louis with Brandenburg, but only after Louis relinquished his claim to Upper Lusatia, which Charles claimed for himself. On April 6, 1350, it was officially proven in Nuremberg that Waldemar was a fraud. The Brandenburg estates were ordered to recognize Louis once again as their legitimate ruler. Many towns, however, resisted and were violently subdued by the end of the year. The fighting continued until 1352, led by Louis's half-brother, Louis the Roman. Gradually, Waldemar's support base crumbled. Lusatia was pawned off, and parts of Brandenburg were ceded to the Archbishopric of Magdeburg. In 1355, Waldemar instructed his last loyal cities, Old and New Brandenburg and Gürzke, to submit to the Wittelsbachs. The false Margrave, whether deluded or knowingly placed in this role, died 1 or 2 years later at the court of the princes of Anhalt in Dessau. What exactly became of him remains a mystery. It is likely he was executed, but even at the time, authorities were cautious about creating political martyrs, especially ones who had already risen from the dead and claimed to have spent time in the Holy Land. Whether the man who appeared in 1348 truly believed he was Waldemar, or was deliberately used as a tool of political ambition, remains unknown. Historically speaking, it is highly unlikely that the real Margrave would have simply relinquished his claim, particularly since his house had few heirs. Furthermore, there is no evidence whatsoever of his supposed pilgrimage to the Holy Land. All indications suggest that the returnee was a political invention, useful to Charles IV as a means to destabilize Brandenburg, secure Lusatia for Bohemia, and ultimately gain control of the imperial regalia. The story of the false Waldemar is a compelling case of how, in the Middle Ages, political reality could be manufactured through spectacle, deception, and collective wishful thinking, just like the case of Tile Kolup. This leaves us with two lingering questions. First, who was the false Waldemar if not the real one? It is speculated that he was a man named Jacob Rehbock, a journeyman miller. Whether this is true remains unconfirmed. Second, how did the real Waldemar die in a way that made his return seem believable at all? We only know the date and place, August 4th, 1319, in Beerwalde, now in modern-day Poland. The circumstances of his death remain unknown. Since the Wittelsbachs inherited Brandenburg shortly thereafter, due to Waldemar's lack of heirs, there has long been speculation that they may have played a role in his demise. Ultimately, however, the significance of this story lies elsewhere, in how the powerful of the time were utterly ruthless in exploiting whoever and whatever suited their aims. Questions of social rank and legitimacy were easily pushed aside. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.